Hello, my subscribers, and welcome to what is basically another speed paint, but I did this in Roblox. If you want to know a good place to do digital art, but you don't want to buy a app or download an app, you can just go to Roblox and go to, I believe it's called Spray Paint. And it has a lot of free stuff on there, so you really don't have to buy anything. So, as requested by a couple people, I'm gonna start talking about Envy lore and what this character is. So, if you don't already know who Envy is, he is an angel. He's actually classified in the story as a fallen angel, but that does not mean he is evil. Fallen angels are just angels that have fallen from heaven for various reasons and are unable to return. Being a fallen angel in this story means like you could have been injured, lost your wings, you could have left voluntarily, or could have left and got injured on Earth or wherever you went. So that's what a fallen angel is in this story. So in this sketch, and also with my avatar, you will see that Envy actually has horns. This is not because he is a fallen angel, it is actually because he does have horns in his true form, because yes, angels have their true forms. It's basically like a biblically accurate angel. And Envy just has these. And a lot of angels actually have horns too. That's just one of their characteristics, because a lot of angels also have animal characteristics. So some will have very sharp teeth, some will have claws, some will have extra eyes, extra wings, tails, that type of stuff. And he just has horns because, for one, I like drawing them, and two, I think it makes sense for his character. Getting into Envy as a character, or his human nickname, which is V. He is, again, he's a fallen angel. He didn't start out this way, obviously. He had to fall at some point. So what he was before this current version of him is he was an archangel, which is basically like a soldier for heaven. So he was very adept with dual wielding, but he's also adept with other forms of combat, weaponry, such as scythes, not really nunchucks, but stuff that you can throw. The only thing he's really not good with is bow and arrows and more projectile type weapons. Envy is also pretty adept at a certain type of magic, because most angels, and honestly a lot of creatures in my fantasy world, are adept or know of magic. There's very few who cannot wield it. And he is adept with water magic, specifically blood manipulation. However, it wasn't until his first fall that he learned of his adeptness to blood manipulation. And blood manipulation is a subsect of water. So really, what Envy uses as magic is usually his blood manipulation, and then some forms of ice casting. So finally, going over the overarching story of Envy. Envy, again, was originally an archangel, so he fought for heaven. And that's basically what his job was. He was a soldier. And he went and fought battles against, hell, or anything that really was opposing heaven at the time, which was basically just hell. And pardon me for having to say some of these a little weird, but there is the YouTube terms of service. But he had friends and he had a brother. So his brother is actually Pride, and his friends were Gluttony and Lust, is what I'm gonna say. Lust. We're gonna call her Elle for now, because that's what I usually call her, to avoid, getting striked. But basically the other three that I named were also archangels except for Pride. Pride was a higher rank, but he wanted an even higher rank, and so that's kind of what kickstarts the first part of the story. So I have to explain a little bit about Pride because he kickstarts this whole thing. But Pride makes a deal with one of the princesses, or the, I guess, lady/lords of hell, to make up some more battles. That way Pride can show off his intellect and get higher ranking in heaven. So a lot of these battles, Pride swoops in, he stops the revolution or whatever, and Envy's there, but Envy kind of catches on a little bit too. But he's like, doesn't know what's really going on, so he's like, something's off about this, but I can't tell what. So Envy eventually confronts his brother, Pride, and then they kind of get into a fight, and that relationship kind of becomes strained. They still care for each other as brothers, but they don't really talk to each other outside of being like, hey, are you okay? So Envy's going around, he's doing a bunch of these battles, and one of the ladies, which is Greed, which is also a major character, obviously, you could tell by the name, but she starts kind of running out of infantry, so she sends her little brother, and this little brother, Sloth, comes face to face with Envy in a fight, and Envy is supposed to kill demons, but he decides not to, because Envy is pretty empathetic at this point in his life. He hasn't had a whole lot of stuff happen to him other than these fights. And he's like, this kid is actually just really scared and got sent up here for no reason, so I'm gonna kind of take care of him. So he does, and Sloth kind of becomes a resident of heaven. Yay! Obviously, since Pride is kind of doing this double life thing, he's not too happy about this. And so the relationship between the two brothers becomes even more strained. And at the same time, Elle, she kind of falls in love with a demon soldier. And so she doesn't kill this demon soldier. And she actually switches sides. Oh no. So more fights happen, and then Greed, the demon lady, she gets the bright idea to double cross Pride, and she actually starts attacking heaven for realsies. And obviously that's no good. Pride's no longer in control of these attacks, so he's not really sure what's going on. And stuff just goes off the rails. So some angels start getting injured, and then at some point everything comes to a head, and it's just a really, really big battle because hell got kind of the upper hand. So Pride eventually comes clean to heaven. There's like a council, and he's like, hey, I actually was in control of some of this, and I'll take the fall for it. I know some of the weaknesses, but not all of them. Please just let me lead a little bit, and I'll try to stop this to the best of my ability. They let him, and now there's this just giant war happening. This is where stuff goes down, and it goes down hard. So Envy, obviously, since he's an archangel, he's in this war, he's fighting to protect heaven and the residents and all that. Same with Gluttony and with El and with Pride, obviously, as I said. Envy is fighting all these demons, he's doing a pretty good job, and he's staying close to his friends. He loses Gluttony in the battle. Like, Gluttony's still alive, but he isn't around her anymore, so it's just him and El, right? And as we already covered, El is getting corrupted, and by this point she is corrupted by Hell's influence. She's doing everything to please her mans, so to speak. So she betrays Envy. And how she does this is she catches him off guard while he's fighting other demons, and once his back is turned towards the, looking out towards the edge of heaven, she pushes him and in a swift blow cuts off his wings. And so he falls over the edge of heaven without wings. So he falls all the way down and he falls to earth, and he obviously from that type of fall is knocked out. So he's knocked out for a while, and the battle is still happening, and demons are obviously running rampant everywhere. So Envy, poor guy, he gets dragged into hell by a lot of demon soldiers that are on Earth right now. Same with a lot of the injured angels that are falling off of heaven. So now Envy is a prisoner of war in hell. And hell does lose the battle, but heaven also lost a lot of soldiers, so it was not a great time for them either. And so what hell does in an attempt to, again, attack heaven and stuff at a later date is they start kind of torturing, brainwashing, doing experiments on the prisoners of war that they have captured, and obviously that includes Envy. So this is how Envy actually loses one of his eyes. So that's why he has one black eye. And honestly, the black is something called corruption fluid, or corruption liquid at this time. It's also called black blood later on. And it is a virus. And that is why the scleras, or what would usually be the white part of the eye, are black for Envy. But it's a very bad substance, and Hell was experimenting with it at the time. Obviously, there's a lot of things that I cannot say due to, terms of service, and honestly, I don't feel like everybody wants to hear the details of Envy's torture, so I'm not going to get into it. But he does get brainwashed, and he does get turned into a weapon, and he does get used for a second huge attack on heaven. So this second attack is really where Envy gets his namesake. This is where his name becomes infamous, because he becomes this obviously brainwashed machine. But he also kind of has some of his own personality. He's super envious of other angels. So something he does as a war machine is he starts tearing off other angels' wings as well and throwing them over to replace his own. But obviously none of the wings that he's trying to replace are going to work because they were torn off other angels. And it's just really not a good time. Eventually Envy kind of he's going on a rampage still, but he goes into even more of a rage, a frenzy if you will, and he actually starts attacking Hell's soldiers as well, which is not good for them either. So he does kind of tear apart his captor, or the person that was in charge of torturing him. Good for him, I guess. So now there's literally no one in control of this super powered angel weapon thing that is just going around and tearing people to bits, right? So, not great. The only person that can stop him and does stop him is Astriel, which is an old childhood friend. And having that old childhood friend actually treat him with kindness kind of jogs his memory. And Envy, in his lucid state, decides to fall off of heaven himself. Obviously, since he falls again, he does kind of pass out, and it kind of resets him when he gets back to Earth. And obviously, since he was used as a weapon, no one in heaven really tried to find him this time, other than Astriel and his brother, Pride. So now Envy is completely classified as a fallen angel, and he lives on the immortal plane, which is on Earth, obviously. And he kind of just does a job that he knows. So what he does is he becomes like a bounty hunter, but for specifically demons and other unholy creatures. And that's how he lives his life. Often he does have to make up new identities just so he isn't outed as a supernatural entity himself. And he does this for many, many years. So Envy is really not having a good time. He's pretty depressed and just doing kind of what he knows how to do, which is fight off demons and that type of stuff. But he's not happy. And it isn't until he is approached by someone who is familiar with some heaven or good aligned people. He actually is approached by another character called Darren Raven, who is titled the Necromancer. So Mr. Raven comes up to Envy and he's like, I just know that you're not a human. I know you are something else. And I know you are good with dual wielding. And they kind of get into a scuffle because obviously Envy is like, holy crud, how does this guy know what I am or that I am magical or a non-human creature? And honestly, from Darren Raven's look at this time, Envy would also reasonably think that Mr. Raven is a demon, but Mr. Raven is not. He is actually a human. He just got really messed up by some magic. Eventually, this scuffle kind of comes to a halt because Mr. Raven is super durable, even though he's not as strong as Envy. And he's like, okay, you are really good with dual wielding and just with swordsmanship in general. I promise you I'm not a threat. And honestly, I can give you a job outside of mercenary work to train my sons, who also need to learn how to do swords. So Envy, kind of looking for anything at this point, he's like, you know what, sure, I'll go along with this. And this is where Envy's life finally turns for the better. So Envy, at this point, he's training Mr. Raven's sons, which are Rai and Dre, which they are twins. And he's teaching them swordsmanship, that type of stuff, but he's also kind of becoming a part of this big old family. And yay, the found family trope. And finally, Envy has a place to be himself again. But yeah, Envy finally gets a family again. He's doing pretty good. He's smiling. He's happy. He feels like he can be himself again. And he actually gets close to a couple of the different characters. He gets close to Mr. Darren Raven and with Pyrus. And the rest of them are pretty much like family to him. And it actually seems like I've run out of time for this video. So if you want to hear part 2 of Envy Lore, you're going to have to just let me know in the comments, or let me know in person, I suppose, or hit that like button.